Girls Guide to France, because it's time. The French are upset and they're taking part in their favorite pastime, protest. People will tell you it's because of a pension bill, but it's actually a much bigger problem, lack of chemistry. Have you ever dated someone and the vibe is just off? That's how France feels about her president/boyfriend, Emmanuel Macron. So I am going to give you the lowdown on the pension bill, but in order to understand why it's such a big deal, I need to give you context. First, we have to talk about Emmanuel Macron. Macron is a finance bro. He's a tech guy. He's the kind of guy to stage a photo shoot during an international crisis so you know he's working really, really hard. And France, well, she was a rebellious teenager. She joined the socialist alternative in uni, and even though she's mellowed out now, she still likes to do things her own way. Emmanuel Macron, being the president of France, is kind of like when Elon Musk dated Grimes. We know what happened, but why? When Macron became president, it was kind of by accident. France really wanted this guy called Fillon, but unfortunately, Fillon was a wife guy. And by that I mean he made up a government job and paid his wife Penelope $1 million to do nothing. I personally think that's really sweet, but it is corrupt. So he can't be president. That left Mélenchon, a guy pretty far to the left, Marine Le Pen, a woman who is a literal monster of the sea, and Macron, a man going his own way. Apparently, right down the center. He started his own party called En Marche and expected us not to notice that En Marche has the same initials as Emmanuel Macron. We noticed. So anyway, the runoff was between Macron and Le Pen, and Macron obviously won. But I'm telling you all of this so you know that while some people voted for Macron, a lot of people voted for not Le Pen. Macron would probably be a pretty standard leader wherever you're from. But we're not in North Korea, babe. We're in France. Vive la revolution, off with their head, eat the rich, France. And the French Revolution is kind of like a really expensive perfume. The scent has stuck around. It has base notes of a strong state, mid notes of class warfare, and top notes of socialism. So when Macron said he was a centrist, people had a really different idea of what that was than what it actually turned out to be. Oh my God, the ex-investment banker is introducing neoliberal policies? I never would have guessed. How crazy. Nicknamed President of the Rich, Macron is a Marie Antoinette of our time. And it's not just his policy, it's the way he talks about the working class. Or to use his words, the people who succeed and the people who are nothing. Not the people who do nothing, not the people who have nothing, the people who are nothing.
Les gens qui réussissent et les gens qui ne sont rien.
Macron sees the pension system as his little pet project, what he wants to be remembered for. He says the pension system will collapse if they don't find 12 billion euros in 5 years, which is crazy. It seems like a really bad time to be giving billions of dollars of tax cuts to the rich, which he's doing, which is crazy. So imagine this. You work at a makeup counter and your boyfriend is a banker and his friends are bankers, and you go out to dinner at this like really nice restaurant, but your boyfriend is worried that his friends are gonna leave because it's expensive, so he starts paying for their drink. But he pays for them out of your joint account. And then the next week, there's not enough money in your joint account for rent, so he asks you to pick up extra shifts. That's kind of what's happening in France, which is maybe why they're pissed. The reform is to change the minimum retirement age from 62 to 64. In reality, it's very hard for anyone to retire at that age because you can't access your full pension until you've worked 43 years. So take out study, having babies, taking carers leave, and you're not really getting out of the system any earlier than anyone else. The healthy life expectancy in France is 64 for men and 65 for women. This goes down further if you work a blue-collar job. While in the Protestant colonies of the Anglosphere, we might live to work. France is built different. People in France tend to have very active retirement. Old people are mainstays in every city, at restaurants and galleries, taking care of grandchildren. Their pension system is built on an idea of intergenerational solidarity, where the young people understand they're paying for the old people's pension. They don't think of themselves as paying for their own future retirement. Here's what the boys will tell you.
France is way behind every other country in terms of retirement age, and it's unsustainable. With the declining birth rate and poor immigration policy, there are too many people taking out and not enough people putting in. hiking up the age is a must.
And that sounds so right. I love it when a man talks with confidence. I just want to switch my brain off. The French Pensions Advisory Council found that far from being on the brink of collapse, the pension system has actually been creating a surplus over the last few years. And yes, it will produce a deficit for a while, but it will turn around in the mid-2030s before stabilizing again. And at no stage will it increase its portion of the GDP. Other reforms to the pension system, which haven't had time to kick in, will ultimately lead to the pension system costing less than it currently does. 12 billion euros is a lot of money, but it's not a crazy deficit for a pension system with an expenditure of 340 billion euros. And if we're being honest, there are lots of places that 12 billion euros could be found. Here's a cute little thing you might not know about. To be an EU member state, you have to keep the national deficit below 3%. A French economist noted in a letter from France to the EU, it explicitly said it planned to meet the deficit requirements by paying for tax cuts using structural reform. So the pension system is not at risk. Macron just wants to balance the books after giving money to his wealthy friends, and he plans on using the working class to do that. The other reason France is big mad at her boyfriend is because he's been doing sneaky shit. He's using articles in the Constitution like 47.1, an article used to rush through budget measures, and 49.3, the I'm the president so I can do whatever the fuck I want article, to push through changes that he knows have no support. The bill that includes the change to retirement age is actually a social security budgetary reform, which has now been referred to the Constitutional Council. Their job is to remove any parts that don't directly relate to the budget. So one might assume something like a change to the retirement age, but who knows? Hey guys, so it turns out I was wrong, and the Constitutional Council just sort of approved the bill. But I'm just a girl, I don't know what you expect. I did my best. Trade unions have said that they're going to keep protesting so long as any changes to the retirement age are on the table. And that's not great for Macron because protests aren't where he shines. There's been a lot of violence in stopping protests since Macron has been in office. In fact, over 7,000 people have been injured. One of his personal aides decided to dress up as a cop and beat up protesters for some reason. This isn't the best area for Macron. So the longer these protests go on, the more the wicked witch of the far right, Marine Le Pen, will milk them. She is actually wealthier than Macron, but apparently identifies as downtrodden. And she's trying to convince these people that Macron is against the working class and that he's trying to destroy the French way of life. So while Macron's big dream might be to be remembered as the guy who reformed the French pension system, ultimately he might be remembered as the guy who drove France to accepting the far right.